So yesterday was a rest day. I hope people had a good rest. You might have seen that still the Abbey was quite busy and there was a lot going on despite the rest day, and that the rest day in some ways it resembled a regular day at the Abbey. So it's good for you to have this awareness of like life in community and how it works. You saw that some people came, and some people, Venerable Chuni went out. So these are things that we're engaged in. Vida, who came, the older woman who came, she's from our group in Spokane, and started meditating, learning the Dharma in her 70s. She and her husband died just a few weeks ago, and so we were involved with helping him with that transition and helping her now as she's, learning to adapt to a new kind of life. When Venerable Chuni went out, she went to one of our neighbors' houses, a couple really wonderful people, and in fact they were instrumental in encouraging us to start building Gautami House. Otherwise we would have put it off for another year, but they sat us down and got us going, and he is now in the last stages of terminal cancer. So she went to give him a Reiki treatment, and I'll be going to see him this afternoon. So these are the kinds of things that we get involved in, that we're, the Abbey is, we're involved with society. On Sunday there's a meeting in town about homeless teenagers in our community, and a couple of us are going to go and attend that. We're trying to help them set up a website for homeless teens in the county so that they'll know what kind of services to get. You may also have noticed Kevin was here. He was working on a new copy of the Guru Puja. This is a puja we'll be doing on the 25th of the month, which I think is next Tuesday, And unfortunatedly the new copy won't be ready, but we were working on that, and unfortunately was making the cover, and I was going through the editing with him. And then Venerable Tarka and Venerable Samten were writer Naomi and Little Sage came, and we're in the process of developing an online education program that will help people learn the Dharma and also develop a close link with the Abbey at the same time. So they were working on that, and we hope to unfold that in September, hopefully. And, and then you see Venerable Semke, who has missed many teachings simply because Will has been up here, and she has to go with what's, happening now, and without a complaint, she goes and does what she needs to do to serve the community and take care of the forest, even though it involves missing the teachings and discussion while we're here. Venerable Yeshe is cooking lunch right now. She's not here. So you see, kind of how community life works, how, as a monastic, you're trying to, here she's coming. Your ears must be burning. I was just talking about you. How we function as a group, how life happens and things happen, and we reach out and take care of each other and of the people around us and of the buildings. I think hopefully the roof guys will be coming today.
I called them. I haven't heard from them.
Life happens.
Contractor.
Yeah, you have the pleasure of dealing with contractors, which is a great practice of fortitude and joyous effort. Okay, but so we try and put the Dharma in all these different aspects of our life, so that we become whole people. We're not becoming. There are some places that are geared towards a lot of study, and the people will come out there as fantastic scholars, and I really bow to those people. What we're trying to do here is have a lot of integration between study and practice, so that people come out as whole people, as not just people who know the Dharma, but people who are able to live it and practice it. And community setting is the way we do that. Yeah. So when you first came on the first day, remember I said that it's good to come with a mind, unlike our usual mind of what can I get from this experience, to what can I give, and how that transforms, your life. Because when you're just looking at what I can get, then you're going to see problems all over the place. Yeah. Venerable Samkhya's great talk yesterday really illustrated that quite well. What can I get? Well, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. So I want to study this, and I want to study that, and I want the schedule to be like this, and I want the meditation to be like that, and I don't want to work so much because I want to, memorize these things, and I want to know this, and I want that, and, why are you telling me to do this? I don't want to do that. Hire a cook because I want to, I want to study, and don't bother me with cooking, and don't bother me with the roof. Somebody else should do it, and the water should come out of nowhere, and the sewage should go into nowhere, because, I am a Dharma practitioner. I don't care about worldly things, but they should all be there so that I can enjoy them. And somebody else should work to make it happen. Okay, so that's the mind of what can I get by going to the monastery. And so you're going to find problems all over the place. No place is going to be satisfactory to you. When you go and you with an attitude of what can I give, then you see, here's my Dharma practice, because you look at the far-reaching practices that we're doing. Generosity, we give our time, we give our energy. Ethical conduct, you live together in precepts. Fortitude, you endure the whole thing with a happy mind, and you develop fortitude that comes from not having everything go the way you want it to, and not having people act the way you want them to, and not having people praise you the way they should, and in fact them pointing out your faults the way they shouldn't. Okay, but you develop fortitude, and you develop joyous effort that takes joy in serving. I remember at the beginning of when people first came to the Abbey, do you remember our stand-up meetings? It was like, we had a schedule, and it's changing before the day's even half done. And and now people are just used to that. You have joyous effort, so everything changes, and you just go with it. So the mind developed. We have scheduled meditation periods, which are seldom missed, at least as a group. Individuals may, because of health reasons or whatever, miss things. So you develop your concentration in there, and your wisdom you're developing in your meditation sessions, and also the wisdom of knowing how to benefit others you're developing in daily activities and service. So in that way you're putting the teachings into practice. And then when you study and put the teachings into practice, then you really see what the teachings mean. I know from my own experience, I had the fortune to do a lot of study at the beginning, and I learned all these different things in different categories and stuff like that. And I thought, wow, bodhisattvas are really incredible. And then, you come to start an Abbey, and then you really begin to understand what bodhisattvas go through. And it's like, I'm not a bodhisattva, but wow, this is bodhisattva boot camp. Because it's one thing between knowing the 3 types or 4 types of generosity, depending upon which listing you use, and it's another type to actually do it. Especially when people don't say thank you. And then how you make decisions and how you apply ethical conduct to having ants living in your structure. It's one thing reading about ethical conduct. It's another thing trying to live it out in the countryside where you have, ants and hornets and wasps and all sorts of other people who share the land with you. And, how to practice joyous effort on a day-to-day basis when you can't go on vacation. You can't say, okay, I'm calling in sick today and I'm taking off to go relax, doing something somewhere else. Bye, everybody. You learn how to nurture yourself and cultivate joyous effort and become a balanced human being. And you learn how to say, I'm exhausted and I need rest. And you learn how to say, I need help. Yeah. Okay. So it's all a thing of, really kind of doing our best on a moment by moment, day to day basis. And of course dealing with all the moods that come in our minds. One day we wake up and we're just like, this is wonderful, and the next day we wake up and it's like, with a dragon with fire coming out of our ears. And, and we interact with the same people who's, so they see us in our angelic manifestation and in our dragon manifestation. And so, we learn to manage these different emotions, and others learn to manage their reactions to us, and we all go on together, don't we? And whatever emotion we're having, it changes. Even if you want it to hold on to it and to be permanent, you really want to stay in your bad mood forever and ever, it's impossible. Sorry. Pity parties don't last forever. Anger doesn't last forever. And our good moods don't last forever. Okay? So we just kind of, learn to be flexible with all of this. Okay? I had another comment. I was just thinking, because I've been, people have been sending in some applications to come and visit the Abbey. And I was thinking, you really see what people are like through the applications, and just some recent applications, and then thinking about you people and your applications, because everybody here wrote very nice applications. I mean, you really took the application process seriously, and you answered the questions well, and you gave the information that was needed, and you proofread it so it was in readable English. And, it was very clear through your applications that you cared about the Dharma and you cared about being able to come for the program, And then sometimes we get applications, I was reading some recently, and it's like not proofread, the person's all over the place, going off on tangents and telling us everything they know, or how, just without the same kind of seriousness, and Dharma is a serious business, and it's not just flippant. It's not just, hey, you guys want to have a monastery, I want to move in next week. Yeah, and assuming, everybody's going to take you. We got somebody yesterday, Venerable someone to talk to, who, it doesn't know anything about Buddhism, but wants to move here next week.
And what clothes to bring.
Yeah, and what clothes to bring. And without even asking, if it's possible. So fortunately we have a good screening process. But, you see that kind of thing, and people just, kind of weigh around in their applications. And so it tells you, is this person really taking their spiritual practice seriously? Are they coming with a mind of humility, or are they coming in with a mind of, I know almost everything, and you're just going to show me a little bit. And so, you really see through this kind of, because Dharma is a process. I mean, Dharma is the most important thing we do in our life. We usually think that our career is most important, or who we marry is the most important. But, those choices last just for this life. And then they're over. I mean, whatever occupation you have, you're not taking that into the next life, are you? In fact, you probably won't even take it into old age. You retire at some point. Yeah, who you marry, that's certainly not going to go into next life, and sometimes it doesn't last in this life either. So those decisions, if you look at the viewpoint of one life, they're important, but in the long term, none of that comes with us. Whereas, our Dharma practice and making decisions about where we're going to go and who we're going to study with and how we want to progress, those are very, very important decisions that are going to influence not just this lifetime, but many lifetimes to come. And so, being aware of that and respecting our own spiritual side and wanting the best for us, and so taking care about that and, approaching it with wisdom and humility and willingness to learn and willingness to serve and so on, then that makes a huge difference in how we grow. In the same way, I get these emails sometimes like, "Will you be my Dharma teacher?" And it's like, I haven't even met the person. Maybe they followed things online and so on, but I've never met them. Or maybe somebody that I've met that has visited, then, just kind of writes an email saying, "Will you be my Dharma teacher?" I mean, would you propose marriage to somebody over, with an email? A one-paragraph email? By the way, I hope you're well. Will you marry me? Bye. I mean, you don't propose like that. You don't, things in life that are important to us, we don't do in some kind of casual, well, by the way, way. And so it's just interesting in America, people kind of, like, "Oh, well, will you be my Dharma teacher?" Like, "Oh, by the way, will you lead me to enlightenment?" I mean, this is a serious thing, people. This is the most important thing you do in your life. So, make the request properly and investigate properly and, come in with a mind that is, with the right kind of attitude. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, because you can see, when people fill out job applications, long emails, detailed, very respectful, You go into for the interview and, you dress very well and you go in and you're nice and well-mannered and, took a shower beforehand and everything, and you go in, you want to make a good impression and so you're conscientious about the whole process. And people come, for enlightenment, which I see is much more important than your job. And, just kind of come in any old way and, Yeah, and by the way, I want enlightenment, can you give it to me by next Wednesday? No. Well, sorry, I'm going somewhere else. Good luck. Better you go somewhere else. Okay.
Mm-hmm. The other thing too, it's not an attachment statement. Is that I think folks who come in sometimes they don't realize that this is our home. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that the work that we do as a community and as a spiritual family, the transparency, the honesty, the willingness to share, to come in and just say, I want to move in next week. It's like somebody knocked on your door, on your home, and said, hi, my name's Joe, and I want to be part of your family. Yeah. This is a family, and there's something very, very precious here, and just to assume that it's a hotel, I guess, a little Dharma hotel. Yeah. So I'm getting a little bit more sensitive as the community grows in trust and in harmony, that this very, 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 very special mind and a very deep intention that really makes it work here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's the difference between a monastery that lives as a community and a Dharma center where people, go home at night, or even a retreat center where the people who live there are a staff that serve the retreatants. That's where you can really see the difference. You're nodding your head a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So you've had that experience. Okay.
To the teacher endowed,
transcendent destroyer, one that's gone, foe destroyer, completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one gone to bliss, nor of the world's supreme guide of beings to be tamed. Teacher of gods and humans to you, the Buddha endowed, transcendent destroyer, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans who were born on this earth, you pay 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I bow. With your bodies formed supremely fine, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best supreme guide, to you I bow. With the supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not, incomparable wise one, to you I bow. Great compassionate protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagata I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the lower realms. Unity supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom too, well established in the trainings. The holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through this merit may sentient beings attain the state of all seeing, so through the foe of faults, and be delivered from the ocean of cyclic existence, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death.
This ground
anointed with perfume, flowers strewn, Mount Mary. space of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamiryatayami. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So let's cultivate our motivation and really appreciate that we have the opportunity to learn the Dharma. Appreciate the fact that the Buddha taught the Dharma, that he perfected his own realizations and purification, and then, out of compassion, shared the Dharma with the world. Rejoice that practitioners for many, many centuries now have learned and practiced and actualized these teachings and passed them down from one generation to the next. So that here we have the great fortune of meeting the teachings and having the opportunity to practice. So the appreciation for the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, an appreciation for the lineage of all practitioners who really held these teachings in their minds, in their hearts, and out of compassion taught them, then let's learn them and think about them and meditate on them so that our own mind will transform, and then we'll be able to be of the greatest benefit to all living beings. So last time we talked about the three knowledges that the Buddha gained that led to his awakening, his full awakening. And so there's a statement that the Buddha made upon awakening that said, through the rounds of many rebirths I roamed without reward, without rest, seeking the house builder. Painful is birth again and again. Okay, through the round of many births, beginningless births, I roamed without reward, without any lasting security, without any lasting happiness, without rest. Always busy doing this and that, and going here and there, dealing, being overwhelmed by afflictions and trying to manage them. Seeking the house builder. Okay. So the house is the house of cyclic existence. Our body and mind are five aggregates taken under the influence of ignorance, afflictions, and karma. And the house builder is ignorance and also craving. Ignorance is the root of cyclic existence. Craving is what keeps it going. Yeah, crave. It's true. Crave. I want. As they say, be careful what you want. You might get it. And we haven't been careful. We've wanted a body and mind under the influence of ignorance, afflictions, and karma, and we've gotten them. Okay? So we've been reborn again and again with these five aggregates. So that's why it says painful is birth again and again. And then the Buddha said, house builder, you're seen. You will not build a house again. All your rafters broken, the ridgepole destroyed, gone to the unconditioned, the mind has come to the end of craving. So house builder, ignorance and craving, you've been seen. Buddha identified what the root, the origin of cyclic existence is. And not only identified them, but seen how they are incorrect ways of apprehending objects. And generating the wisdom that sees things in the correct way, the way things actually are. Okay? And so then he says, you will not build a house again. When ignorance and craving are destroyed by wisdom integrating into our very being, then their ignorance and craving are completely dismantled and eradicated and cannot arise again. So they cannot build the house of our samsaric body and mind again. Okay. All your rafters broken, the ridgepole destroyed. So the whole thing, our whole unsatisfactory cyclic existence, where everything's impermanent and insecure and, going up and down and unsatisfactory and painful, all of that has been dismantled. And you've gone to the unconditioned. The unconditioned is another word for nirvana. Okay? Because nirvana isn't created by causes and conditions. It's not created by ignorance. No? Nirvana is the ultimate reality. It's the cessation of all the afflictions. It's the purified emptiness of the mind that has ceased all afflictions. Okay, so nirvana is our real refuge, and the path leading to that nirvana is our real refuge. Okay, so the mind has come to the end of craving. Yeah, craving, ignorance, completely eliminated, never to arise again. Yeah, so then the mind is really free, and that's real freedom. That's real freedom. Yeah, when we're free from ignorance and craving, and anger and resentment and self-pity and laziness and despair and, all those things, that's real freedom, isn't it? Yeah. We think we're free in America. Yeah. I'm free. I can go to the shopping center and run up as much credit card debt as I want. Is that freedom? I'm free in America. I can go buy a house with a rotten mortgage that's going to get foreclosed on me because I'm thinking bigger than my pocketbook actually is. Is that freedom? Yeah. I have a relationship, but that other person is so attractive and I'm kind of bored with my relationship. Nobody will find out if I sleep with them. A little bit of pleasure will do me good. Yeah. Is that freedom? I can buy all the alcohol I want once I'm 21. Yeah. I can drink and, I can buy prescription drugs and abuse them. I can, get all the weed I want to. Nobody's going to find out. I'm free. Is that freedom? Yeah. I can eat all the potato chips and chocolate cake and ice cream that my little heart and big stomach desire. Is that freedom? Our American notion of freedom. Yeah. It's a beautiful notion, but it's a worldly notion, isn't it? Yeah. And even the way we live it in America, we aren't free. I'm completely free. I can go when they're at a military funeral and say that that it's good these soldiers got killed because God's punishing people because there's homosexuals. I'm free. The Supreme Court said I can do that. This crazy church in Kansas, that's what they do. I mean, horrible. Oh, I'm free. I'm free. Supreme Court said that's my freedom of speech. Yeah. I mean, so painful for the families. Yeah. So we can see that what we consider freedom, is maybe worldly freedom. It certainly beats being, living in China or, a communist country or in a totalitarian government, We're so fortunate we're not born in Libya or Syria or, with what's going on there now. Yeah. And yet still the kind of freedom we have isn't real freedom. Yeah. Real freedom is in here. Yeah. When the ignorance and craving are gone, then we're really free. Then you can live in Libya, Somalia, communist China, anywhere you want to, and your mind's free. Then you have real freedom. So that's the kind of freedom we're looking for. Okay. Then there's some beautiful things here. After the Buddha got enlightened, so the sutra says, which sutra is this? This passage is from the Udanas. And the Buddha said, somebody, must have been Ananda, I have heard that on one occasion when the Blessed One was newly awakened, staying at Uruvela by the banks of the Naranjara River, that's the river that he crossed, in the shade of the Bodhi tree, the tree of awakening, he sat in the shade of the Bodhi tree for 7 days in one session, sensitive to the bliss of release, the bliss of deliverance, of liberation. At the end of 7 days, after emerging from that concentration, in the third watch of the night, he gave close attention to dependent arising, or dependent origination, in forward and reverse order. Thus, and he summed it up in this verse, which is one of the most crucial verses in the entire canon. When this is, that is. From the rising of this comes the arising of that. When this isn't, that isn't. From the cessation of this comes the cessation of that. Okay. The mantra of dependent arising that you say every morning when you bless your speech, yeah, it is praising the Buddha as the one who taught dependent arising, dependent co-origination. And this is the essence of it, When this is, that is. So it's talking about causality. When you have the cause and conditions, the effect comes. It's not a reward, it's not a punishment, it happens naturally. From the arising of this comes the arising of that. Don't be surprised at the result when you've created the cause. When this isn't, that isn't. Okay, so when you don't have the cause, you don't have that result. Okay. From the cessation of this comes the cessation of that. When the cause has ceased, then the result also ceased. So this is a short way of explaining what we call the 12 links of the dependent origination. So the sutta continues. Yeah. In other words, from ignorance as a condition come karmic formations. In other words, the karma that we create. From karmic formations as a condition comes consciousness. This is the consciousness on which the karmic seeds are planted. That also becomes the consciousness that will later take birth. From consciousness as a condition comes name and form. Name and form refer to the body and mind when they first begin in the next life. From name and form as a condition come the 6 senses. As soon as we're born, slowly our senses develop. At first in a human life, when we're inside our mother's womb, we have tactile and mental sense powers, and then slowly with time, the other sense powers develop. We're able to hear and, smelling and seeing and so forth come after we're born. Okay. From the 6 sense sources as a condition comes contact. Yeah. Due to having senses, we contact external objects. Okay. From contact as a condition comes feeling. When we contact external objects, we feel pleasure, pain, neutral feelings. From feeling as a condition comes craving. When we have a pleasant feeling, we crave more of it and not to be separated from it. When we have a painful feeling, we crave for it to be eliminated. When we have a neutral feeling, we space out and just crave for nothing to change. Okay. From craving as a requisite condition comes clinging. Yeah. So, for example, at the time of death, we crave our present life. We don't want to separate from it. When it becomes clear we are, then we ignorantly cling and want another life. Yeah? So that craving and clinging together help ripen the karmic seed that we created before, and wham, we go into another samsaric rebirth. So it says from clinging as a condition comes existence. This means renewed existence. Okay, getting reborn in another life, the karma ripening that's going to take us to another life. From renewed existence as a condition comes birth. We're born. From birth as a condition, what follows? Aging and death. Okay, and in the middle, between birth and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, suffering, and despair come into play. Such is the origin of this entire mass of suffering and dukkha. So this teaching is so important because it describes how it is that we keep taking rebirth from one life to the next. How it is that, from ignorance we create the karma that throws us into the next life. And then once born in the next life, then we have more contact with objects and we create more karma and start more of these cycles. And then, at the end of life, the craving and clinging come in, and then the karma ripens and we get thrown into another life. And this whole cycle keeps going and going and going without any foreseeable end, as long as the causes are there. Yeah, when this is, that comes into being. When the causes are there, the result comes. Okay? So this teaching explains how it is that we take rebirth. I remember being a little kid and wondering, how did I get here? Yeah. I mean, the story about the stork wasn't, terribly convincing. And, even when I got to be a teenager and they taught you about the birds and bees, that wasn't very convincing in terms of, but how did I get here? Yeah. Because I never, I always realized, okay, there's a blood connection, a genetic connection with my family and ancestors, but I am not my body. Yeah, I'm not my body. So how did I get here? Did you ever wonder that as a kid? Yeah, how did I get here? Why was I born me? Why wasn't I born somebody else? Yeah. As a kid, when I heard about kind of the poverty and stuff, I would say, why was I born me? I'm growing up in this very nice community. And there's other people who don't have the same privileges and opportunities that I have. Why? That's not fair. Yeah. So this kind of teaching really explains it. Yeah. You have to spend some time thinking about it. It's not an easy explanation to get right off the bat. But it really explains, why am I here? And why what is happening to me is happening. I mean, why are we all here? Did you ever wonder that? Why did this particular group of people wind up here at EML? Yeah? Of all the 7 billion human beings on this planet, why us? Why us? Huh? It's not just kind of random accident, just, a fluke. Other people applied, they couldn't come, or we directed them to another program. Yeah. Sometimes people want to come, then things happen in their life, they can't come. Yeah. But look at this. I mean, how is it that we're all here? Okay. Does our mind just think, oh yeah, just kind of accident, Yeah, I had nothing to do, just showed up this place. Yeah. Traveled clear across the country. Yeah. From places sorry, I used to make fun of Florida a lot. Have you ever noticed that there's certain states that are in the news continually? Florida's one of them. The weirdest things happen in Florida. Yeah? Yeah. Rhode Island you don't hear about very much. Too small, you know. Florida, you get, you know, the Cuban Kid, and you get the Terry Schiavi, and you get, what did the recent government do? They just took away something, I forget what it is. Some other social service, like, you know.
There's drug testing for, the big thing recently is drug testing for any kind of state assistance. The people, when they apply, have to be drug tested out of their own pocket.
Oh.
Wow. Yeah.
They close state parks. My explanation is everything, the way Florida hangs down there, everything just drains down.
Wow.
Yeah. But you think, you know, how did you know, coming from Florida, you know, another state that's in trouble is California. You know, the prison system, the court said they have to release all these prisoners because the prisoners are overcrowded. The government can't pay their bills, it's bankrupt. Yeah. Nobody hears from Texas. Texas is another crazy state. Yeah. But it's kind of amazing, isn't it? That you know, how is it we kind of all wound up here? Okay, so this kind of teaching explains it. Mm-hmm.
I was curious about this teaching. Well, in Nagarjuna's Precious Garland, there was one verse where it said, when this, you know, quoted this, when this is, that is, and then he added, just like when there is long, there is short. And I'd always kind of heard this teaching being more chronological, but that verse made me think that there's also a component of it being like a relative relationship. Is that a way you can explain it too?
Yeah. I mean, he's talking about different kinds of dependent arising. There's the dependent arising of causality, which is being explained here, and the dependent mutual dependence, like long depends on short and like that.
But these aren't that kind of relationship.
No. Right now he's really emphasizing causality. Okay. Because causality is the basic thing. You know, when you learn dependent arising, the first kind of that it's important to understand is causality. You know, because that forms the whole foundation of understanding karma. Yeah, and the whole foundation of our ethical conduct. Because if we don't have an understanding of karma, or if we don't have an understanding of causality, then we don't realize that our actions have an ethical dimension. So therefore we don't take care of what we do and what we don't do. And if we don't take care of that, then it's impossible to have a good rebirth. You know? So the bottom line thing that we have to do is have some faith in the causality, you know, and that leads to ethical conduct. Not just causality like in rocket science or, you know, physics or biology or something like that, but causality, you know, in terms of ethical conduct. Yeah, I mean that's the whole foundation of the path, isn't it? Okay, then he goes on in this teaching, because, you know, in the abbreviated verse, he said, when this is, that is, from the arising of this comes the arising of that. So that's what we just talked about. Then he said, when this isn't, that isn't, from the cessation of this comes the cessation of that. And so then the following explains that. Now from the remainderless fading and cessation of that very ignorance. Okay, so in other words, when ignorance has been completely removed, not just partially removed, but completely removed, due to having the wisdom that realizes things as they are, the wisdom realizing the emptiness or lack of inherent existence. Okay, so from the cessation of that very ignorance, Remember, we started out with ignorance. Now it's from the cessation of ignorance comes the cessation of karmic formations. When there's no ignorance, we don't create the karma for future rebirth. From the cessation of karmic formations comes the cessation of consciousness. When we don't have when we don't create karma, then there's not going to be the arising of a consciousness on which those karmic seeds are implanted and the consciousness that takes rebirth. There's still going to be a continuation of consciousness, but not that kind of consciousness. Okay? When from the cessation of consciousness comes the cessation of name and form. When you aren't born, when you don't have the consciousness that takes rebirth, you don't have, the body and mind in the next life. From the cessation of name and form comes the cessation of the 6 sense sources. Yeah, when we don't have the body and mind, then we don't have our sense powers contacting the other contaminated objects or polluted objects on the outside. From the cessation of the 6 sense sources comes the cessation of contact. There's no contact with those objects. From the cessation of contact comes the cessation of feeling. Yeah, we no longer have polluted feelings of pleasure, displeasure, and neutral. Okay? From the cessation of feeling comes the cessation of craving. Then we don't crave for more of the above. From the cessation of craving comes the cessation of clinging. Then at the end of life, we don't cling for another rebirth. Okay? From the cessation of clinging comes the cessation of renewed existence. Then there's no ripening of a previous karma that's going to throw us into the next rebirth. From the cessation of renewed existence comes the cessation of birth. Then we don't get born. Yeah, in samsara. From the cessation of birth, then old age and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, suffering, and despair all cease. Such is the cessation of this entire mass of suffering. Okay? So when we hear this, if you have a good understanding of why the forward explanation is really undesirable, then when you hear about the cessation of it, you feel like, whoa, this a sense of relief and like this is really good. When you don't have a good understanding of the forward one being an actual description of an unsatisfactory state of being, then when you hear like, I'm not going to get born and I'm not going to have contact external objects and I'm not going to have feelings and I'm not going to have craving, then you feel like, what's going to happen to me? I'm going to become totally non-existent. If I don't get born, I won't have a body. If I don't have a body, I don't have an identity. Then I can't have pleasure, I'm not going to have any more chocolate cake. I'm not going to have any more sex. I'm not going to have any more, hikes in the mountains. What's going to happen? And then all the joy is going to go out of life because there's no craving, there's no clinging. And then I'm just not going to exist. And even if I do, I'm just going to be this ambitionless bump on a log that goes, duh. That's you could get that kind of idea, okay? And then you go, oh, this sounds, Buddhism is nihilistic. And this is why you find some of the early Christian missionaries who learned about Buddhism and many Western scholars who write about it in textbooks that are used in colleges have the totally wrong idea of what the Buddha said, And why the Pope says, Buddhism is so pessimistic. Buddha said life is suffering. Doesn't sound very desirable, does it? Well, it's because, suffering is a wrong translation for the word dukkha. Yeah? And the people just completely, when ordinary people read this without understanding, they're so involved in, my identity. I have a body and mind. I exist. This is nihilistic. It's talking about not existing anymore. What a horrible religion. you find people criticizing like this, because they haven't received the correct explanation. They've just read something and thought they understood. So Buddhism is anything but nihilistic and anything but, kind of down in the dumps, nothing's going on, just become a bump on a log. Yeah. Buddha said, get rid of attachment. Without attachment, there's nothing in my life. I have no energy to do anything, So I'm just going to sit there. Yeah, it's all okay. I have no attachment, no anger, no resentment. I have no emotions, no feelings, no pleasure, no pain, no happiness, no suffering.
Good drugs will do that.
Temporary.
Yeah.
Temporarily.
So, if you don't understand, it sounds really awful. Well, does His Holiness the Dalai Lama fit a description of that? Yeah. When you look at His Holiness, he fit that description? He's just sitting there. Yeah, it's all okay. No pleasure, no pain. Yeah, His Holiness isn't like that. And when you meet His Holiness, he's one of the most joyful people you meet, isn't he? Yeah, and incredibly joyful. So, you can see that Buddha's not talking about just going into some dull state or some state of non-existence. He's talking about really freeing our mind from all that keeps it captive so that we have a real state of freedom. And then especially if we practice the Bodhisattva path, so that we then, with love and compassion and great resolve and bodhicitta, then, create infinite manifestations to be able to benefit all sentient beings and guide them to liberation. That's no life of duh, that's a really active life, isn't it? Yeah. But doing all of that without stress. It's not like, oh God, somebody needs that emanation out there. I'm just so tired of making these emanations. I'm exhausted. I need a flex day. These sentient beings, they just tire me out. I just want to hang out. Give me some rest sometimes. That's not how the Buddha is. Okay. So the Buddha said, then on realizing the significance of that, the Blessed One on that occasion exclaimed, as phenomena grow clear to the ascetic, to the Brahmin, ardent and absorbed, he stands routing the troops of Mara like the sun that illumines the sky. So just as the sun illumines the sky effortlessly, then this kind of wisdom completely, scatters Mara's troops. Not just scatters them, makes them become non-existent. Okay. Oh, probably I thought I was going to talk about more. This is as far as we got today. Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
I have one that's been troubling me a little bit.
Uh-huh.
When we hear teachings on the suffering of change, and everybody goes, oh no, don't tell me this about my happiness. And the teachers always say, no, it's not about pleasure. That's not the problem. Craving is the problem, or clinging is the problem, or attachment is the problem, and that's kind of reassuring to us.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I have reflected on this relationship between these very things, contact, feeling, there's no way a contaminated mind can have pleasure without attachment arising, without the craving arising, right? There's no way.
it goes very easily from
Right.
pleasure into craving.
So in a way, it was troubling because I was in Boise having this conversation, doing the same thing, saying, no, it's not the pleasure that's the problem, and thinking, but there's no way. I don't think I'm telling the truth here.
Well,
Can you help me a little bit?
Okay. First of all, when we have this body, there's no way we're going to not feel pleasure and pain.
Mm-hmm.
They're a given. Okay? Even if you don't want to feel pleasure, there are pleasurable sensations. Your body experiences them, or your mind experiences them. Okay? So then, the place where you cut these links is between feeling and craving. Yeah. So to an unaware mind, there's no way you can have pleasure without having craving. But this is where practice is coming in, where you learn, okay, there's pleasure, and that's good enough. I don't need to react to the pleasure by latching onto it. Okay, so that's one of the foremost places where you cut the 12 links.
But we can diminish it, but as long as we have ignorance, we can't really.
Yeah, but
Right.
so what we're doing is we're diminishing it and at the same time meditating on emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because you can meditate, when you meditate on the emptiness of the feeling, then your mind's not going to go into craving it. Okay? Yeah, so this is the point where we cut it. Yeah. So in one way, saying, the pleasure isn't the problem, it's the attachment to it that's the problem. So that is true. Okay. It's important I think as a skillful way, when you teach new people, that you really emphasize that it's the affliction that's the problem. Because otherwise they start thinking the pleasure's the problem, and that's when people go into these weirdo ascetic trips, which we've just covered, how the Buddha realized these are not the path and they are not helpful. Yeah. Or people grow very afraid, saying, renunciation means I don't have any pleasure. Not realizing that renunciation means you're renouncing suffering, you're renouncing dukkha. Okay, so you have to be skillful so that people get the right idea. Otherwise, it's very easy for people to, get the wrong idea.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Just a quick comment. Just thinking what we just said, about seeing suffering like that.
Uh-huh.
I think that characterizes a lot of Catholic nuns that I met as a kid. And that way of seeing the suffering life as the way to go.
Yeah.
And so they were very unhappy people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. If you see, life is suffering, pleasure is evil, there's nothing evil about pleasure. It exists, Pleasure is evil. Then you become like that. Oh, deny, negate. I can't experience. I experience pleasure. Oh, I'm a terrible person. Then your mind becomes so tight and unhappy, like you said, as you witnessed in some of the Catholic Sangha. Yeah? So, and this is especially in Tantra, the way things are transformed, where, you have the pleasure, you practice not clinging to it, not craving for more. And you use the pleasure as, something that instigates your meditation on emptiness. Yeah, you use the pleasure as something to develop wisdom. At our level, it's very difficult to do because it has to do with dissolving the channel, dissolving the winds in the central channel, But Tantra has this whole way of using pleasure to really transform it, so that it becomes the way to to enlightenment. Okay. Okay. Did the you got my thing on? Yeah, and it's printed out. Okay. Yeah, so bring it, and everybody bring a writing implement to the discussion group. We're gonna do this thing. Due to this merit may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forever